I'm Derek Lee. I'm a product manager at Confluent, and I work with a team of brilliant engineers who actually wrote the code and built the VS Code extension that we'll be showing you today. In fact, I have Matt here with me, and he'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have about the extension, about the lessons learned, about what we did, and about just Confluent in general. So make sure to stop by our booth and have a chat. Let's start with deconstructing the title for this session a little bit. So first we have Copilot. Should be pretty obvious at this point. If you're giving a talk at any conference, you should probably have word like Copilot or AI in your title, or otherwise people wouldn't show up. Giving the audience, I think apart from the happy hour starting, I think we can probably use another word or two about AI. But jokes aside, we will be showing you and sharing some of the lessons learned and what we did with integrating with Copilot from the Confluent for VS Code extension and really make sure that we deliver a smooth experience to streaming data engineers. The second part is Apache Kafka and Apache Flink. That is the core business for Confluent. That is the bread and butter for us. But at Confluent, we don't just provide you with a hosted Apache Kafka and Flink services. What we do is a lot more. We give you a complete data streaming platform that of which you can stream, connect, process, and govern your data, no matter where you choose to run it, on the cloud, on premises, or somewhere in between. And lastly, we have Confluent for VS Code. That is the extension that we'll be showing you today. But first, I want to start with the reason why we built the VS Code extension. And if you think about it, if you own a product or service that you are thinking about building an extension, a natural question that will come up from your leadership, from your management, and from your peers would be, why? Why spend the time and effort to build a VS Code extension when your developers can already do what they are doing today? Maybe it's on the web interface, maybe it's using the REST API, maybe it's using the CLI. Why do a VS Code extension? Well, here I have a picture of Mount Rainier. It's beautiful, and I think if you go outside in a while, you can still take a peek at it. And if you ask people why they go climb mountains, they will tell you, well, because it's there. If you want to admire the majesty of the mountain, you have to go to it rather than asking it to come to you. And we think very much the same when we think about our developers and our customers. Is that if we want to give our developer the best experience, we have to come to our developers. If you think about a day-to-day scenario for a streaming data engineer, well, they live in an IDE. And with VS Code being the most popular one by far, that should be a pretty simple answer. We should meet developers where they are and give them the experience that they will love. And that is our answer why we built the Confluent for VS Code extension. I think that may very well be yours as well. So we talk about the reason. Now let me actually show you what the extension is like. When you think about an extension living inside VS Code, helping people to use Confluent Cloud, helping people to use Apache Kafka, now the first thing they have to do is to connect to whatever resource that they care about. We provide several ways for people to achieve that. The easiest and simplest way is by using OAuth. So here I have a Confluent account. I can just click a button and go to the OAuth sign-in flow. The extension will behave like a web server and listen for the callback from the OAuth challenge. Once I sign in with my email and password, the OAuth token get back to the extension and I am immediately signed in without having to do anything else. Here, I see all my Confluent Cloud environments. I can drill into a particular one where I see my Kafka clusters. I see my schema registry. And new this week, we're also showing you your Flink compute pools. And when you select one, we'll show you all the statements that are running inside that compute pool. So that is great. That is very easy. Now, but that doesn't work with everyone. And remember, I said we want to meet developers where they are and giving them the experience that they need to be successful at their jobs. We know in working with customers, a lot of the company want to restrict that access. So for a given developer, they may only have the API keys in secret to a particular Kafka cluster. So what we provide is what we call a direct connection. With a direct connection, you have the flexibility to connect to, well, any source of Apache Kafka installation. It may be open source that you hosted on-prem somewhere. It may be open source that you hosted on the cloud. It may be a particular cluster within Confluent Cloud, Confluent Platform, WarpStream. You can choose whichever connection type that suits your need. And then only the information I provide are Bootstrap server, right? Where is my Kafka cluster? And then the required credentials. Here I'm using API credentials with my keys and secrets, or you can use username and password for simple authentication. Optionally, you can also connect to the schema registry because schema is very important when you want to take advantage of the full capability of a Confluent Cloud. The other thing we support is running Kafka locally. Again, when we think about the typical developer workflow, before you push something to the cloud, you most likely want to do this locally and make sure your code works, and you want to develop against a Kafka that is running locally on your machine. And with the extension, we give you the ability to start a local Kafka clusters and schema registries, if you choose to do so, very easily with just a few clicks of a button. And once I do that, you can see that a Kafka broker is running locally on my Docker container runtime. So that is connectivity to various types of Apache Kafka clusters. Now, once I am connected to something, I can use the topic message viewer to get an understanding of what is that topic like. So here we have what we call a topic message viewer that the extension start up as a Kafka consumer, stream in the message, and show you these are all the messages that has been produced to a particular topic. And in this case, I'm streaming it and consuming it from the beginning. I can change the sort and filter, and depending on what I need to tailor this view to exactly my requirement. I may be curious about only a few partitions specifically for my investigation. I may be looking for a particular order that of which I want to search by order ID. Or I just want to use the histogram to get a sense of how the messages are coming in over time, how many messages, and if they are concentrated to a particular time in the day. So that is the Kafka side of the experience. And now I want to shift gear a little bit and show you the new features that we shipped this week at Microsoft Build, which is the support for Confluent Cloud for Apache Flink. I'm going to open a file for a query that I have already written. I'm not going to embarrass myself to write the query on the spot. Here I have a really simple query. It's querying against the same topic and the message within that you just see me showing. And it's doing something really simple, right? I'm saying, oh, I know I'm getting all these orders in, streaming in from various different sources. And what I want to understand is within 1 minute, how many orders am I getting in that minute window? And what are all the items that people have purchased within that 1 minute window? I have written the statement, and you can see that the file, the query, is ended with .flink.sql. That is an indication for our extension that you're writing Flink SQL statements, and then our extension takes that experience over and give you a more contextually helpful experience. You can see the code lens showing up on the very top of my query, of which I can choose where I want to submit my Flink statement to, if I want to use any particular clusters or catalog and databases in this case. But in my case, I just want to submit that statement. So we'll take care of provisioning and creating that statement in your Flink compute pools. It will go into pending state for a few seconds, and then it should turn into running. Once the Flink statement is running, we'll use the same message viewer to visualize and show you all the messages that are a result of the query that I have just written. So here we go. So I know within this particular time window, within this 1 minute window, I received 8 orders, and these are the items that people have purchased. So that is the baseline experience, right? You say, oh, cool, I can already do that on the web interface. I can already do that on the CLI. And now you're just moving that. You're moving the same experience to VS Code. What's so special about it? Well, for us, I think the big value prop for building that experience into VS Code is as a developer to allow you to take advantage of all the other assets, all the other features, and all the other improvements that are available inside VS Code that's not necessarily developed by us, by Confluent, but by the global and wider communities. So I can bring out GitHub Copilot, right? So I can say I'm not good at writing SQL queries, but I am curious about the total amount of orders within that time window. So I can say, let's go into edit mode for now, and I'll say add a new column that calculates the total order amount for that time window. We can build this experience into our web interface. We can build that experience into our CLI, but there's already GitHub Copilot that can do this for you. And by us bringing that query authoring and execution experience into VS Code means you can use the tools and experiences that you are already familiar with, right? So here I have a new column. I can say, well, I want to keep it. I'm happy with it. I can run it again and start iterating on my Flink queries. But there's a lot more than just using Copilot as is. One thing that our customers are often curious about is, do they have the right Flink pool in the right cloud provider and regions that they need? Now, in Confluent, we make it really easy for you to use Flink to query your data that lives inside a Kafka topic. But there's one requirement. The requirement is they need to be in the same cloud provider. They have to be in Azure, for example, and they have to be in the same region for that query to work. So for me, I'm naturally curious about it, right? So I can say, I will go into ask mode. I'll say for all my clusters, which don't have a matching Flink compute pool in the same region and provider. All right, so GitHub is going to think about it. It's trying to help me to figure that out. It gives me a bunch of queries. It gives me some code to be able to do that. But ideally, I just want the answer. I just want GitHub to tell me the answer. Like, these are the pools. These are the missing ones. And here is what you need to work with your IT team to get those resource provisioned. So I'm going to just do up arrow and bring up the same query. But this time, what I'm going to do differently is I'm going to mention Confluent. So this is the change that we did in that Confluent for VS Code extension is now a Copilot chat participant. We are there to help you and to bring more context to GitHub so that it can answer your questions and help you to be more efficient. So rather than telling me that, oh, run this code, run these queries to figure out what you are looking for, it just tells me that. It tells me, oh, this test cluster that's in Azure, Germany, West Central does not have a matching Flink pool. So I probably want to work with my IT team to provision one if I want to query the data within. And that is, again, when I say we want to meet developers where they are and bring the experience they love, it's not just copy-paste. It's not just copying, pasting our experience in the web and make that same experience available in VS Code, but really to think about why people want to do this inside VS Code and what are people already doing. And so we can fit into the workflows that they have already adopted rather than asking them to come to us and learn our way of doing things. So to close that up, we do have a related session also from our colleagues at Confluent that talk about using Confluent for your AI workload, right? I focus very much on how we use AI to help you. This is where you can learn how you can use Confluent to help you using AI for your customers. If you want to take a deeper dive into VS Code and the extension, we are having a workshop coming up. So scan the QR code and register, where we'll go a lot deeper into VS Code extension. And lastly, thank you for spending the time with us. Make sure to check out our GitHub repository and visit our booth to have a chat. Thank you very much.